Good evening. It is Tuesday, the last day of July 2012. We're glad you're watching KTN, your authoritative station.
Well, in exactly 216 days, you will be going to the ballot to pick a new crop of leaders for this country.
Thanks to a ruling by the Court of Appeal today that upheld the 4th March 2013 date as the election date.
Welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Eric Latif.
I'm Sophia Wanuna.
Let's take a look at the highlights.
The current Parliament shall continue for its unexpired term, which ends on the 14th January 2013.
Appeals Court upholds that elections be held in March 2013.
IEBC asked to use manual voter registers as tender row rages on.
Kenyan doctor wanted by police over Venezuelan envoy's murder.
Kenyan health sector in high alert as Ebola ravages Uganda.
KTN Prime begins now. The Court of Appeal has upheld and ruled that all members of Parliament should go home by the 15th of January next year to pave way for a general election in March. Now, the President, the Prime Minister and the entire Cabinet will, however, stay in office until after the results of the elections are announced in order to avoid a vacuum in government.
Now, this ruling on the election date now provides the strongest confirmation to the Electoral Commission to prepare for a March election. Here's KTN's Noah Otieno with the details.
The Court of Appeal has confirmed the January ruling of the High Court that gave March 2013 as the earliest possible date for the first general election under the new constitution.
The High Court, after extensive and objective analysis of the relevant provisions of the Constitution, held correctly in my view that the first elections under the Constitution can only be lawfully held within 60 days upon the expiry of the term of the 10th Parliament, and computed the date of expiry as 14th of January 2012. On my own analysis, I'm satisfied that the High Court reached a correct decision.
While this was a loss to the Center for Education and Awareness and the Caucus for Women Leadership, who had sought an October 14, 2012 date for the election, the Court of Appeal granted their first request to nullify part of the High Court order that could have allowed the President and the Prime Minister to influence the election date.
The High Court's first option of the President and the Prime Minister agreeing to dissolve the coalition in accordance with Section 6B of the National Accord and Reconciliation Act was in the circumstances clearly wrong and at any rate obiter.
What is likely to generate debate in the political circles from the court's decision is the ruling given by the Justice Hannah Okwengu that the executive will stay on even as the MPs go home in January.
The retention of members of the executive is understandable because there cannot be a vacuum in the government. The persons occupying the offices of the President, Prime Minister, Vice President, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister or Assistant Minister to continue to serve until the first general election is held.
One judge in the 5-judge bench, however, disagreed with the others on the election date. After almost a year of back and forth petitions along the corridors of justice on the election date, the ruling by the Court of Appeal today now confirms to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission of Kenya that they have at least 7.5 months to prepare for and launch the general election that will replace the 10th Parliament and the current President and Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. Now, Tino KTN at the Court of Appeal in Nairobi.
So 4 out of 5 judges have upheld IEBC's decision to hold elections in March next year. That just dashes hopes for anybody who wanted elections to be held this year. But is that actually the case? Anne Kiguta now joins us. And there could still be a possibility of having elections held this year.
Absolutely. It is a slim chance, Eric, but I'll be showing you 2 scenarios that could make that possible. And as Eric has said, it's still possible to hold that general election before March the 4th in 2013. And that's going to happen in one of 2 ways. Let's take a look at our first option. Now, should today's decision by the appellate judges be challenged at the Supreme Court, then the ruling that the court will be delivering will be final, and that ruling, of course, could go either way. Now, such a challenge must be filed within 14 days, but is such an application likely to see the light of day in time to change the election date? Perhaps not. Well, for lawyers pushing for an October or December poll, they may simply find themselves time-barred, while an appeal at the Supreme Court could be treated with urgency. There's no telling with what speed judges would release their decision. The appeal that was ruled on today was filed last year. Now, if that is any indicator as to the amount of time it will take to return to the courts for another ruling, then it is clear that such a process would be in vain. Let's take a look at the second and final option, and that would be failure to implement the Constitution. That could see Parliament dissolved and lead to a snap poll. The Constitution requires Parliament to enact various pieces of legislation within the period that has been stipulated in the 5th schedule. Now, should Parliament fail to do so, then it could be dissolved. According to Article 261(5), it allows anyone to petition the High Court if Parliament fails to enact any legislation within the specified time period. The High Court may direct Parliament to take steps to ensure that the necessary legislation is enacted and report on the progress of the same to the Chief Justice. Now, if Parliament fails to enact that legislation in accordance with the High Court's order, then the Chief Justice shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. Having said that, Article 261(2) of the Constitution also allows Parliament through a 2/3 majority to vote to extend the period within which to enact any piece of legislation required to be enacted by a period not exceeding 1 year. And so you can tell that both scenarios appear highly unlikely, but still within the bounds of possibility. Just before I do wind up, let me bring you another piece of news. And the 3.9 billion shillings biometric voter registration tender row deepened on Tuesday, with a section of leaders calling for the adoption of the manual voter registration. The Orange Democratic Movement says that the IEBC tendering process acrimony is unacceptable, since it could jeopardize the general election. IEBC has so far cancelled the tendering process as it weighs whether to re-advertise, resort to manual voter registry, or borrow the biometric kits from across East Africa. Samogena reports.
The Electoral Commission ambitious plan to register over 18 million voters electronically hangs in the balance owing to the cancellation of the biometric voter registration kits tender. Boardroom wrangles have dogged the process from the onset, throwing a spanner into the Commission's credibility to manage elections. IEBC's conduct is now under scrutiny. ODM has fired the first salvo, calling for the shelving of the process. An ODM parliamentary group meeting attended by Prime Minister Raila Odinga asked the electoral agency to maintain the manual voter registry.
This whole rush that we must have the BVR system, Kenyans do not want any BVR system. Kenyans want a BVR system that is beyond reproach.
If we are unable to put up a system that creates that confidence, then we better go back to the manual registration and start now, because time is not on our side.
Reports indicate that IEBC commissioners sat late into the night Monday to chart the way forward from the murky waters it finds itself in. But the electoral managers are running against time to beat its set timelines. Civic education set to kick off in May 2012 is yet to set off, while voter registration designed for August appears bleak. The Commission is required by law to have a new voter registry in place 3 months to the elections.
My advice is that we forget about this biometric voter registration system until the next election.
IEBC is back to the drawing board. A paid-up advertisement sent to the print media by the Commission's Chief Executive Officer cancelling the tendering process was pulled down in the last minute, signalling rivalry in the Electoral Commission, with threats that a senior officer at the Commission may be axed owing to the controversy. Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa has nonetheless come to the defense of the Electoral Commission.
I'm very happy that IEBC has cancelled the controversial tender and that the procurement process has been stopped. And what we're asking now is that they must ensure whatever they do so in a transparent and accountable manner.
The Electoral Commission walks a tightrope either to adopt the manual voter registration process prone to manipulation and not fall victim of the defunct Electoral Commission that paved way for massive rigging, bungling the 2007 general elections. The IEBC is facing a real race against time to hold its first watershed general election, but with controversy rocking the biometric voter registration kits tendering process, pressure is mounting on the electoral agency to drop its noble idea and resort to manual voter registration. Samogina, Ktn, Nairobi.
And that story by Samogina brings us to the big question tonight, and we ask, should Kenyans go back to the manual voter register during the 2013 election?
Send us your brief comment plus a yes or a no to our SMS number 8040. We'll be sampling some of your comments at the end of this live newscast.
All right, let's move to another story making headlines tonight. The Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission is seeking a further extension in order to fulfill its mandate and complete its report. The Commission says that it shall not be able to complete and present the report to the President by 3rd of August as required. Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa, to whom the commissioners presented the petition, attributed the delays in the fulfillment of the task given to the TJRC to internal wrangles that have since been resolved. The minister is set to petition Parliament to grant the Commission the extension that could see its mandate extended until next year.
Just over 72 hours before the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission was scheduled to present its report, the Justice Minister announced that the Commission is seeking an extension of the time period allotted to it.
The Commission has been compiling its report since February 2012, but looking through its work so far, it has come to the realization that it cannot be able to complete its report by 3rd of August as was expected.
The TJRC was initially established to operate for a period of 2 years. Internal wrangles and court cases where commissioners attempted to eject the chairman, Bethwel Kiplagat, are reported to have eaten into a considerable portion of this time. In seeking the extension, the commission cited unfinished business in its bid to investigate historical injustices since the 1960s and make recommendations on reparations.
The workload we gave them to look into, investigate and recommend prosecutions and reparations, it was a real heavy workload. We would rather not hurry and receive a half-baked report.
Questions abound as to just what an extension would mean, given that the TJRC report was expected to give recommendations ahead of the coming general elections. The Commission has been tasked with creating a roadmap for addressing historical injustices. It has to date received 40,098 statements, but this is not the first time it has sought an extension. Its initial mandate was set to end in November 2011, but Parliament agreed to extend the Commission's term for a period of 6 months to 3rd of May. This would later be extended by a further 3 months to 3rd of August 2012. It is this last extension that TJRC now seeks to extend further for an unspecified period of time that could go well beyond the general elections. The Justice Minister has already set the wheels in motion following Parliament's resumption. Wilkiston Abwa, Ktn Prime.
Thank you, Wilkiston. Now, we all know it's no longer a rumor that the hemorrhagic fever, Ebola, has been reported in Kampala, Uganda. And the Ministry of Public Health and Sanitation has ruled out screening of travelers at the Kenya-Uganda border for Ebola. Director of Public Health, Dr. Shanaz Sharif, says such an exercise would not yield much more than inconvenience to travelers. And in Parliament, Ikolomani MP Dr. Boni Halwale asked the Minister for Public Health to clarify the government's strategy for preventing the deadly virus from Kenya.
River Road, Nairobi. This is one of the busiest bus termini here in Nairobi, catering for passengers traveling to Kampala, Bujumbura, Kigali, and those arriving from those cities. Now, as you can see, it's business as usual. There's so many people here traveling out of Nairobi and those who are arriving here in Nairobi. Since Saturday, when news of the Ebola outbreak in Uganda broke, Ruth Wangeshi, a worker here, tells us the number of travelers has reduced.
Slightly it has affected because we are thinking like kuna watu walikuwa nasema ati wamekatazwa kurudi hapa hivi kwa sababu they think watakuja na hiyo ugonjwa.
Director of Public Health Dr. Shinaz Sharif says the fact that one person has been confirmed dead in Kampala and 13 others in western Uganda as a result of Ebola should not worry traders and other travelers.
We are not going to impose any travel restrictions to Uganda, neither are we going to impose travel restrictions on people coming from Uganda. Unless somebody has attended a funeral in Uganda.
One of 2 survivors of Ebola participated in the burial of the first person to be diagnosed with the disease. People are advised to seek the help of healthcare providers to dispose of the body of a person who has succumbed to Ebola. At Kenya's borders with Uganda, Dr. Sharif says the ministry is educating people on prevention strategies, including avoiding physical contact to contain the infection.
Member for Ikolomani.
In Parliament, Ikolomani legislator Dr. Boni Halwale sought a ministerial statement on the availability of screening centers at points of entry and prevention strategies employed by the government.
I would like her to tell us what specific advice the government is giving to Kenyans in regard of the following issues. 1, traveling to Uganda. 2, shaking of hands by way of greetings. 3, hugging. 4, drinking/eating from the same containers. 5, Mr. Speaker, kissing. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sexual contact.
Probably she can come at the earliest opportunity next week, in the afternoon of Tuesday.
The Ugandan government is tracing all contacts of the deceased and those infected and isolating them for 21 days, the length of time the virus can take incubating in the body before symptoms such as sudden onset of fever, red eyes, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, headache, measles-like rash, and at times bleeding from body openings can occur. Ansu Mwendia, KTN Prime.
The probe into the mysterious murder of Venezuela's envoy to Kenya has now taken a new twist, with police releasing photographs of a doctor wanted in connection with the murder. This as the courts ordered that a top Venezuelan official remains in police custody pending further investigations. KTN's Ashomwilu brings us the details.
This man, identified as Dr. Mohammed Ahmed Mohammed Hassan, is now wanted by the Criminal Investigations Department in connection with the murder of Olga Fonseca. Fonseca was until her death in charge of the Venezuelan embassy in Nairobi. Police circulated Hassan's photographs after obtaining an arrest warrant from the courts and are now appealing to the public to provide information on his whereabouts. Detectives say Hassan is a close friend to the embassy's first secretary, Dwight Soragay, who has since been arraigned in court but has not yet been charged with any offense after State Prosecutor Tabitha Ouya asked the court to allow the police to detain the diplomat for 14 days as investigations continue. Lady Justice Florence Mushemi, however, ruled that Soragay, who was arrested after his diplomatic immunity was waived, remains in police custody for 6 more days as detectives gather more evidence on the case. Police investigations have so far established that the late Fonseca was strangled Thursday night last week at her Runda residence in Nairobi, with leads indicating that a power struggle at the embassy may have been the motive behind the murder. Fonseca was appointed to manage the embassy in an acting capacity after the ambassador was recalled back home following allegations of sexual impropriety leveled against him by Kenyan staff at his residence. Ashemwilu, KTN Prime.
A cross-section of leaders from the coast region, among them Kaya elders drawn from all the Mijikenda Kayas, have come in strong defense of Trade Minister Chirawali Mwakwere over the decision to prosecute him for hate speech. The leaders allege that the charges are a ploy to silence Mwakwere politically. The court on Friday dismissed the petition made by Mwakwere to block the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, as well as the Director of Public Prosecutions, from pressing charges against him, paving way for his arrest. Esther Kahumbi with that report.
It's a chant only usually heard during traditional ceremonies conducted by the highly revered Kaya elders of the coast. This time, though, there was nothing celebratory about the chant. The Kaya elders were out to protest what they say is a plot to silence the Minister of Trade Chirau Ali Mwakwere, himself a Kaya elder, by using the hate speech charges leveled against him.
Wasilete fitina.
The Kaya elders taking issue with the commission, which they say is prejudiced against the minister.
Mkesha wa kupiga kura siku ile, Kombani gari zilichoma, myself I was there. Gari zilichoma, watu wakapigwa risasi. Hakuna hata shirika moja, be it Muhuri, hii sijui inaitwa Cohesion Commission ya Bwana Kibuja, hata mmoja hakusema lolote up to date.
The elders claim that Mwakwere is being targeted for his fight for the rights of the people of the coast, and that the move to press these charges against him will only result to tension among the communities living in the coast.
In a bid to thwart progress in the ownership of land in the coast by the people of the coast, this, we strongly feel, that is the sole reason why this hate speech has come up now.
Esther Kahumbi, KTN Prime, Mombasa.
Now, in light of the fallout over the biometric voter registration tendering process, tonight we're asking you on our big question whether you think Kenyans should go back to the manual voter register during the 2013 general election. Remember, the elections are going to be held on March 4th, according to the Court of Appeal. Now, send us your yes or no comment, plus a brief comment to the number 8040. We'll be giving you the poll result as well as sampling some of your comments at the end of this newscast.
Indeed we will. You are watching KTN Prime, and just ahead, Maasai leaders, rather elders, pray for peace during the elections. Stay with KTN.
Do it every day in association with Duracoat's new Couture Fashion Palette. Leave it to the experts to give you more reasons to combine color.
Shots out to my people all across the world. Let's celebrate and be free. That's right. Yeah, I want to see everybody get down to this. Be all that you can be. That's right. Come on. Yeah. Like this. Stay young, do milk, stay young. Let's enjoy a life that's richer. Right to the break of dawn. Stay young, do milk, stay young. Do milk.
Diamond Park Estate is a modern and prestigious development located in the serene middle-class suburb of South B, Nairobi, and strategically located along Mombasa Road, just 15 minutes from the city center. Its housing units consist of luxurious 4-bedroom maisonettes with DSQ, all built in a modern design, offering practical, comfortable and affordable living. Units are almost sold out. Call us now on 0711 987 114. Diamond Park Estate South B, for the discerning homeowner.
32 million shillings worth of cash and other Olympic branded prizes to be won with Coca-Cola Chota Chapa. Buy 300 or 500 ml glass bottle Coke, Fanta, Sprite, Stoney or Crest Bitter Lemon and look under the crown for your prize. For cash prize, SMS the unique code under the crown to 5054. Hurry, there's 32 million shillings in cash to be won with Coca-Cola Chota Chapa. See press and posters for details. Terms and conditions apply. Coca-Cola, worldwide partner of the 2012 London Olympic Games.
Solutions and answers are not far away, especially if you know how to pray effectively. A new book by best-selling author Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, PhD.
This book is very important. The title is How to Pray Effectively, Volume 1. I'm bringing out this book for your sake, all of you all around the world, so you can learn to pray effectively. Many people pray, but they're not effective in their prayer. And I want you to be effective because God wants us to be effective.
You can get your copy by calling the numbers now showing on the screen or send a mail.
As little as 1 shilling for every call over 3 minutes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Dial star 777# to subscribe. African dishes in association with Golden Fry. Deep fried meatballs. Ingredients: 1 kilogram of lean minced meat, 1 onion very finely chopped, 2 cloves garlic crushed, a half a cup of breadcrumbs, a quarter cup of dania leaves finely chopped, 1 egg, salt and pepper to taste, and golden fry oil for frying. Directions: combine all of the ingredients except the golden fry oil into a bowl and mix. Your end product should be firm. Spoon the mixture into your hands, then roll the meat between your palms to form a ball. In a deep frying pan, heat the golden fry oil until hot, then reduce to low heat. Put the meatballs into the hot oil in batches, turning them over for 5 to 6 minutes or until brown and cooked through. Deep frying with hot oil can be dangerous, so make sure you exercise proper caution. Fill your fryer no more than halfway full. Oil will splatter as you submerge food and you don't want to get burnt. Serve as biting with ketchup and chili dip. If you decide to reuse your oil, strain it and store it in an airtight container away from light. Always dispose of oil when it turns dark or begins to smell.
Golden Fry. Fries more, lasts longer.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. We're glad you're watching.
After KTN aired a damning investigative piece exposing the rotten corruption in the disability movement, the United Disabled Persons of Kenya, UDPK, has come out to defend itself. Say the disabled persons body claims that the investigative story failed to completely link UDPK with the misappropriation of funds.
My proposal was given very unfair coverage. KTN refused to go inside the document to show the budget breakdown. In the budget breakdown, we had activities which included mapping of the groups, doing a needs assessment of the groups, training volunteers to monitor the groups, training microfinance institutions on disability equality, and monitoring the work. I wish to note that if the media does not prioritize coverage for disability issues, it does not mean that there is no work on the ground. I also wish to thank all our donors who have exercised restraint in view of the damning allegations.
Now, KTN would like to state here categorically that we stand by the story.
All right, moving on, retailers at Kisumu's biggest market today took to the streets to protest against an increase in council rates. The traders and hawkers participated in a 2 kilometers procession to the town clerk's office where they presented their grievances. From Kisumu County, Fred Omulo reports.
High-pitched screams and piercing whistles punctured the usually calm and silent streets of Kisumu mid-morning today. The protesters were local traders and their destination, the office of the big boss in town.
Wanakata 50 bob on Sunday, 30 bob wameanza jana, au kutuambia hata kama wanatuchaji 30 bob. Sisi tumeshtuka wanakuja wanataka 30 bob. Sasa sisi tunataka right yetu ni 20 bob. Watuchaji 20 bob, hatujakataa kutoa.
Tunaumia na tuko na watoto, tuna mabwana kuna
Kisumu has in recent weeks seen a hike in local levy rates ranging from 30 to 100%, with charges affected including parking fees and town planning.
Vile Bwana DC alisema siku hizi katiba ya leo kila mtu wako na haki. Uzuri hapa Kisumu haki yetu ilikuwa hata mbele kabla ya katiba hiyo. Na mimi pia ni mtu wa Kisumu, kwa hivyo naheshimu haki yenu.
The city is currently clearing its debts with the aim of handing over a clean slate to the county government that will assume office in the forthcoming elections. From Kisumu County, I am Fredo Mulo.
Members of the Maasai community gathered for a special prayer meeting at Suswa near Narok, a place regarded as holy.
Now, the community members put their political differences aside to hold special prayers for the country ahead of the general elections.
They turned out in large numbers, women, children and men, all gathered for a special prayer for the country. The members of the community dedicated this day on a significant piece of land nonetheless to pray for peace ahead of the general election. The prayers held at the Suswa grounds, considered holy land by the Maasai, are to dedicate the country to avoid the post-poll chaos witnessed in 2007. Political leaders were also present at the prayer session, and the residents challenged them to lead the country by example, avoiding hate speech and divisive politics.
Wanaombea uchaguzi ya nchi ya Kenya, pia wanaombea counties 47 ambao tumeona ni uongozi mpya ambao imepatikana katika nchi yetu, na wanaombea pia constituencies.
The issue of peace is paramount. We cannot operate a country without peace being ahead of everything. It's a platform under which anything can be done.
The youth of the area were also advised to steer clear of politicians who wanted to misuse them to create chaos.
Tuheshimiane wakati wa kura. Na tunauliza wale viongozi ambao wanatoka nje, hasa viongozi wa vyama, wasije kutumia vijana wetu kufanya mambo machafu.
The prayers come at a time when the country is deciding when the elections will be held.
As Kenya continues to develop at the county level, you are more and more interested in the stories and issues that touch on your county. That's why the County Weekly is committed to giving you more of the facts you care about. Facts about your county, your stories, your issues, your county. County Weekly. It's new, it's fresh, it's relevant. Get your copy today. You look ready. Coming for smooth skin that gives you confidence. Start your day with Gillette Mac 3. Its high-definition blades shave closer than regular blades, giving you that smooth skin with every stroke. See you on Monday.
Gillette, the best American way.
From downtown to upcountry, from hard at work to hard at work.
The NP300 hardbody boasts a tough engine and uncomplicated design.
With the TD27 2.7-liter diesel engine, the MP300 has a host of performance and design upgrades, as well as has been proven to be tough, reliable, and durable workhorse in its class. The MP300 Hichoki is the ideal business choice and offers exceptional return on investment. So, whether you're self-employed, a sole trader typically working in remote locations or construction sites, or whether you do landscaping projects or agriculture, the MP300 hard body is the pickup for you.
Nani kama Nisa?
At UAP, we enhance lives across Africa. Insurance, investment management, property investment, and financial advisory. UAP, better, simple life. Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
It's time now for business, and we're joined by Bonnie Tunya. Bonnie, some good news for Kenyans, eh?
Well, indeed, Sophia, there is very good news for Kenya. Inflation indices have dropped from 10% to around 7%. Good news ahead, and basically the cost of living is set to go down going forward. That and much more coming up ahead in business.
All right, take it away.
Well, a drop in food prices largely contributes to a significant drop in the July inflation index. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicate that inflation slowed down from 10.05% in June to about 7.74% in July.
In a month characterized by a substantial drop in fuel prices, the Bureau of Statistics in its monthly submissions pointed out that the drop in pump prices as well as that of key food items from short rains in the previous months slowed down the cost of living. Accordingly, the July rates were far below what many analysts had predicted, in line with the previous trends witnessed over the last 4 months. Additionally, this was also below the government set target of 9% month-on-month rate over the next 12 months. This drop in index was also captured in the decrease by 0.22% in the cost of housing, electricity, water, gas and other fuels during the month. Also registering a significant drop was the transport index, falling by 1.35%. Pressure on inflation in the country has seen a consistent fall since November last year. This has seen a number of quarters call for an equal reduction in the cost of borrowing, now at 16.5% at the last MPC meeting. With the Monetary Policy Committee scheduled to meet in 1 month's time, analysts have indicated that it will be imperative of them to further lower the benchmark lending rate. Similarly, the full impacts of the low pump prices will be realized in the coming days, further bringing down the cost of living, while the government will be keen in maintaining the inflation targets below 9%. Joseph Bonyo, Ktn Business Today.
And today, indeed, it is a good day for business. Good news coming out of all the business headlines, and Kenya has doubled the size of its planned debut Eurobond 1 billion shilling with a tenor of at least 10 years to be issued in the 2013-2014 fiscal year. Now, the country's finance minister told Reuters on Tuesday, speaking to Reuters news agency on the sidelines of the Diaspora Investment Forum in London, Finance Minister Njeru Githai said the proceedings of the bond will be used mainly to finance infrastructure projects as well as to retire some of the $600 million syndicate loan. Now, the bond was first mooted back in 2007 to raise $500 million, but is yet to be launched due to financial markets turbulence in the developing markets. Now, moving on, East African banks are reported to have lost an approximated $48.3 million or 4 billion shillings in fraudulent claims over the last 1 year alone. Now, the insurance industry, on the other hand, recorded claims of about $441.1 million, with at least 30% of the claims being feared to be fraudulent too. Now, this, according to Deloitte East Africa, accounts for about 5% of the global gross domestic product.
And while actual fraud statistics are difficult due to the numerous number of unreported fraud cases, the figure mentioned is also expected to be significantly understated, as most institutions prefer internal resolutions of fraud cases than referral to law enforcement agencies, citing reputational risks. In the banking sector, for instance, Bank A is said to have lost funds amounting to $32.1 million via illegal transfers by use of keyloggers. And in what you may term as money laundering practices, Bank B is said to have wired illicit funds amounting to $13 million from Italy. These funds are suspected to be proceeds of embezzlement, aggravated fraud committed against the state. Think you heard damning information? Listen to this. In Bank D, it is alleged that the branch manager conspired with two directors of an institution to transfer a total sum of $459,000 from the bank. Some of the methods used to defraud banks include identity theft, use of electronics funds transfer, and issuance of bad checks, among others. And in the insurance sector, issuance of false motor claims also cost the sector big time. Further, the attractiveness of liquidity in the market too contributes to fraud, as well as a weak or inadequate internal control. Zawadi Mdibo, KTN Business Today.
Well, many thanks, Zawadi. And General Motors East Africa is training its eye on the East African market, with emerging economies holding key to its business growth. KTN's Michael Karanja sought to find out from the firm its business proposition at a time when used vehicle sales is outnumbering the new ones in the market.
Oil and gas discoveries in East Africa have reignited interest in the region, with many multinational organizations looking to grow their businesses. Add to this, government and non-governmental organizations increase purchase of vehicles, putting General Motors East Africa in pole positions to grow its sales. Over the last 12 months, GM's market share has grown considerably to 27% from the demand of its pickup trucks, lorries and buses used in the region.
Our role is to work with governments and ensure that as the economy improves, people are able to afford new products. So a challenge for us is to make our products more affordable so that we can have more and more people take on.
GM is currently scaling up capacity at its Mombasa Road plant in anticipation of the windfalls of increased demand for the heavy-duty vehicles in the region. However, a big headache for the motor vehicle assembler is a slow pace of market integration within the East African community, with non-tariff barriers slowing down market penetration.
And that is really posing a big challenge, especially for customers who are expecting to get East African manufactured products into their countries at a favorable or no duty at all, but really on the ground, this is not happening.
Sale of heavy commercial vehicles has been on the rise in the region, with the retail segment taking a beating from increased sales of second-hand cars. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Well, it is that time that we look at how your money is doing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And as always, we like to start with how the Kenya shilling is performing against other world majors. While the shilling was rated at 84.12 buying and 84.30 selling against the dollar. Against the sterling pound, the shilling did 132 buying 132.21 to 132.52 selling, while against the euro the shilling was at 103.29 to 103.53 selling. That is against the euro. And now let's have a look at how the money markets were doing this trading day. Well, and that's your business on the day that